Today I'm going to share my thoughts and experience as it relates to the state of Israel, as well as the shifting sentiment towards Jewish people and the state of Israel in the West. Sort of a controversial topic, and I've sort of gotten wrapped up in the controversy a little bit because the question I'm answering today is, Elliott, what are your thoughts about your videos that you made while you were in Israel last year? And so just to bring some of you guys up to speed, I visited Israel, Palestine, the Holy Land, however you want to describe it, last summer. Broad stroke here. I was invited. I made some videos. I uploaded the videos. People had a shit fit. A lot of you guys had your panties in a bunch. And I understand why. And so this guy, he wants to know, Elliott, so where do you stand on all this? I have been pretty vocal and clear over the years, even saying things and bringing things to people's attention as it relates to the state of Israel way before it was fucking trendy, y'all. Because over the past few years, I've seen something really strange happen. Where I grew up in a world where I was taught that Israel is America's greatest ally. Israel, as we know it today, contains the holy people of the Bible, the promised people of the Bible, God's tribe, and that the people living in Israel have suffered persecution and have been nomadic for many generations with no home. And in history class, I learned about the Balfour Declaration and how after the world wars, the West came to the rescue of the persecuted Jews who just suffered the Holocaust and determined that they deserve a land of their own in this newly formed state that they called Israel in the 1940s. Didn't exist before that. It was Palestine. And I grew up around a lot of Jewish people. I grew up watching Jewish TV. I mean, Hollywood's owned by Jews, essentially. Most of American media is dominated by Jews. Our financial institute is generally run by Jews. Banks, the Federal Reserve Bank received its impetus and movement from Rothschild et al. And our government, Congress, mostly Jews. Our education department, and then many of the books we read, the textbooks we read, really painted Israel and Jews in a way that we have to be nice. We got to be nice to them because bad things have happened to them. And this is what I grew up with. I grew up on Long Island, and I would say my school was maybe like 30% Jews. I had a lot of Jewish friends. I liked the Jewish girls. I always thought they were cute. And never thought anything about it like most of you. Like that is the paradigm. That's the narrative that we grew up with. And it wasn't until very recently, like within the past year, that all of a sudden there's a lot of vitriol, there's a lot of anger, and there's a lot of strife as it relates to even the concept of this state of Israel. And of course, we all know why. There has been turmoil on that little piece of land that we called Israel, Palestine, since the 1940s, when European Jews they were all moved into this place, and the West, namely England and now America, stood guard and said these people deserve a home. And that strife between the people who actually lived there and the Europeans that came in has reached many peaks. And in 2020, the end of 2024, it came to a head. And there were some Israeli Jews that were kidnapped, and then they retaliated, and then bombs were dropped. And there's been this going back and forth between mainly like Gaza, which is, I think, still like a part of Palestine, and the Palestinians that live there, and this little part of the island, I guess you could say, that the European Jews lived in. This has kind of been going on for a very long time. In fact, it may date back 1,000 years or more, fighting over this little piece of land. I forget the name of the movie, but with King Baldwin, if you remember, it was called Kingdom of Heaven. Kingdom of Heaven. The whole movie, great movie, was all about how this land is being fought over, mainly at that time between Christians and Moors, Muslims. And so this fight between the East and the West, and this fight between different ethnic and religious classes or peoples is old. This shit is old. It's been going on for a very, very long time. For whatever reason, I'm not to get into, but I live here in 2026, and the fighting is going on, and it's taken on a particular weight. It's taken on more weight than it probably has ever before because of the internet. And so I grew up watching TV and listening to my teachers in school, and although they asked for peace in the Middle East, there wasn't this anger present between different value classes in the West as it relates to Israel. It is what it was, but we were all ignorant, for the most part, to what actually happened and the history behind it. Now, the internet has given us awareness. I started becoming aware of what was happening there probably about 3, 4, or 5 years ago. Let me be accurate. Probably about 3 years ago, more like 2022, right? Anyway, I became aware of it when I became Catholic, and I started understanding Catholic history, and I started understanding the Catholic stance and position on the state of Israel, and how the church never supported it. And in fact, many popes during their pontificates spoke out strongly against Israel. I also learned about Bolshevik revolutions and how socialism and communism come out of the work of, atheistic Jews, European atheistic Jews. I don't know if you can actually call them Jews. A lot of them changed their names, and a lot of them did things that a lot of people think aren't very good. One of which is Herbert Marcuse, who I believe was a Jew, or at least an atheistic Jew, was one of the founders of cultural Marxism, and how after the World Wars, and there was sort of a migration of a lot of European Jews to America and the West. And I don't want to use the word infiltrate, that's not correct, because if you allow someone to do something, if you allow people in and you allow them to do stuff, well, it was permission granted. Granted that most of the public at the time was ignorant of any of the controversial or bad things that come out of this Balfour Declaration and, you know, what happened after the Holocaust was horrible. I'm not going to deny the Holocaust. I wasn't there. I don't fucking know. I'm just going to go with that for now. But a lot of things that happened after that, in terms of like cultural revolution, I know because I was a student of Wilhelm Reich, and he comes out of the Frankfurt, or was a part of the Frankfurt School, which was, again, dominated by Jews and brought a lot of social experimenting, if you might say, sexual revolution and so forth, to America. So I'm no fool, and I'm not ignorant about the politics, but about the politics of what has happened here over the past 100 years. And of course, there are things that I'm not happy about. But I think I have a little bit of a different stance than a lot of you. And I'm going to share that with you. But I'm going to begin with my experience of visiting Israel right at a little gap within the war that gave me time to go and visit a client. So how did I end up? Now, this is from before I even went there. And things were happening. Things were happening. The war was going on. And I happened to be at that time that season in my life, abandoned to whatever was going on politically. I have actually withdrawn from political discussion or just emotion, political emotionality, for at least a year at that point. I'm at the point here where, like, I don't know anything. There ain't too many things I could say I know. And I think most of you now, because the internet has shown you a different side of the Jews, are all excited because you think you know shit now. But a lot of what you're experiencing is exactly what the enemy wants, is for you to get emotional and then divisive. And again, I'm not talking to y'all. I'm not talking at y'all. I don't want to go there yet. I want you to be receptive to the things I'm saying. So I'm trying to be as gentle as possible, as factual as possible. And so I just wasn't interested in what was going on geopolitically and politically. Make of it what you want, but that's where I was at the time. Well, I met a client on a guidance call, a young man named Laron. And Laron happened to live in Israel. Laron is a citizen of Israel, but he's not a Jew. His family comes from a very small and unique religion that most people have never heard of, which may have branched out of Islam. They're Arab people. And he grew up watching my videos, living in a pretty poor village in an Arab subsection of the state of Israel. And he grew up watching my videos, and his life was enhanced as a result of many of the things that I said while he was growing up. And when we got on this guidance call for the first time, he explained how he went from being, a used car salesman, really struggling, but listening to my videos every day. And he went from that to being the part owner of, let me pause with that, part owner of the largest luxury sports car dealership in his city. And I forget the city that he was in, but the city in Israel. And he went on to be like the top luxury sports car salesman in his country. And that is a 180-degree shift in his life, and he wanted to thank me. Of course, he did the work, but maybe he wouldn't have been exposed to the ideas that I shared in my videos had he not been watching YouTube, and I just happened to be the dude that was talking at the time. There's 1,000 of me now, but this is like 10, 15 years ago. And so he's grown up, and he's having some challenges in certain parts of his life. We'll keep it private, but he wanted me to come and spend some time with him. I was already in Europe. I had done a grounding camp in Amsterdam. I had been visiting Rome. This is where it gets beautiful for me. If you could be happy for me. I was visiting Rome, and as a Catholic in Rome, you visit all the holy sites in Rome, right? So, of course, the Vatican, but then all of the Roman churches. I mean, if you're a Christian and you go to Rome, you quickly realize, oh shit, they were always Catholic, because it's like icons and veneration all over the place. Pause. Got a question for what's his name? Seiko. Sorry about that. Computer's editing videos or uploading videos. So anyway, yeah, so I'm in Rome and I'm visiting all these Catholic holy sites or Roman Catholic holy sites. I'm in Rome. And I get a phone call from Laurent, or we're messaging on WhatsApp. And he says, hey, there's a break in the war. They just had a ceasefire and now people can come in to the country. You're just a few hours away over there in Rome. Why don't you come and visit, and we'll do a guidance week together. So he hired me. I was his teacher and his mentor, and he wanted to bring me into his life and show me his world. He was very proud to show me his world. I went to his, so I said yes, right? Who would say no? I said yes, absolutely. If it's safe to come, I'll come. And it was an adventure. It was amazing. It was challenging. I'm happy I did it. Few things that happened while I was there, besides making the video that I eventually took down because a lot of people were very emotional and immature in responding to it. That's my opinion, but I'll back it up in a moment. So I get to see the life that he's built for himself, and it's a beautiful thing. Really proud of him. He knows I am Christian, and he wanted more than anything to take me to the old world holy sites. His gift to me was to take me to Jerusalem. I went to Jerusalem. How many of y'all Christians ever get to go to Jerusalem? How many of y'all Christians, if you were given a chance to go to Jerusalem, you wouldn't go? You'd all go. I got to visit the Holy Sepulchre. I got to see all of the ancient churches in that one spot. I got to walk the Via della Rosa. Hopefully I'm saying it the right way. But the where Jesus carried his cross, Stations of the Cross is what we call it. So I walked the Stations of the Cross. Man, that was really cool. I got to see the Sea of Galilee. I visited some other religious holy sites. I went to his religion, their holy site. I went to the Baha'i holy site. And I got to spend a lot of time with his friends and his family. And I really love them. I love them. They're amazing people. Not that Americans aren't amazing, but there's a different type of like homeliness and like cohesiveness and love that I experienced when I visited his home village, spent time with his mom, his dad, and his friends. I felt like I was a part of the family for that time. Getting into Israel wasn't so easy though. When I first came off the airplane, it's like midnight, I was strongly, I don't want to use the word harassed, I was strongly shaken to see if I was a bad guy or not, right? They don't know me. Look at the way I look. I don't fit in. I ain't fitting in where most of the people in the state of Israel were, right? What the hell is this guy doing here? And so, yeah, I had a tough guy security guard, pull me into the office, and he's like grilling me about why I'm here and who I'm visiting, and he's like trying to suss me out and find out if I'm like a spy or I'm a bad guy or something. And look, security was high, threats are high. I'm visiting their country. I'm an outside guy, I'm not a bad guy. And he figured that out after a while. I said, look, man, I make YouTube videos, and one of my students, he invited me to come. The guy went on and watched my YouTube videos. I showed him, I showed him my channels and whatever. So I finally get in. So I knew that, like, as I'm coming into the circumstances, I realized, like, this is hot. I'm walking into a hot zone. Like, literally, like, bombs were boom, boom, boom. Like, at the very sites that I was visiting just a few weeks ago. Like, I was in Haifa. He took me to Haifa. And just like 2 weeks earlier, Haifa was bombed. So I'm like, it's a threat for me to even go there, right? Like, they're threatened and I'm feeling threatened, and it's like, hey, we're in this together. And in a way, listen, man, I'm not taking sides right now. I can give you my opinion and I gave you some facts, but I'm not taking sides. And the reason why I'm not taking sides is because anger and hate and separation consciousness does not win love. Jesus says an eye for an eye makes the whole world go blind. I don't know who said that. Maybe it was Jesus. And I love Jewish people. There, I said it. Jew-loving Elliott. Call me whatever you want with your anger in your heart. I grew up with a lot of Jews, and they were friendly. The girls were cute, I thought. I have friends and I have clients that are Jewish. And just like with my Muslim friends or my Protestant friends, we don't agree totally on theology. But minus the political moves, minus the world rulers, minus the propaganda and the lies, like you have to imagine, like, if the whole Balfour Declaration thing is a lie, it was founded on lies. There are still human beings, people, babies that were shuffled around as a result of it. To hate your enemy's babies, meaning, like, it's almost as bad as in America, and I'm going on a tangent here. These black people in America who are angry at, like, a 27-year-old white guy because of slavery. That's the dumbest shit ever. You owe us reparations, right? In other words, you can love the people without loving what their leaders do. I have no problem with Jewish people. I know that there are bad Jewish people. I know there are bad all kinds of people. I know that there are bad things that Jewish people did. And I don't even like, it's not even Jewish. It might be more accurate to say Zionist, because Zionist isn't Jewish. I mean, our government is Zionist. Donald Trump is Zionist. Zionism is not Judaism. And there are a lot of Jews that are fighting against Zionism. They're not into it. They were dragged into it. That's what I'm talking about. Think about the European Jews. They were dragged into it. Another thing I know about Jewish people, besides the fact that they do run the world, you want to know why they run the world? Because they're smarter than the rest of us. They're smarter than the rest of us, and they keep that wisdom to their families, in their families. And I'm not saying this to trigger you. Look at IQ rates as it relates to races in the world. Ashkenazi Jews at the top. What do you think that is? I don't know. But it's a fact. They're smarter than the rest of us. That's why, in a way, they're ruling over us. And I think a part of it's our fault. We were far more ignorant in the 1910s, 1920s. We only had the TV. In fact, when the TV came about, Edgar Bernays, who was a nephew of Sigmund Freud, which we know he was, Eastern European, right? We know Freud wasn't all what it was cracked up to be. Freud knocked off Catholic sacraments, particularly that of reconciliation. He modeled psychotherapy after the confessional, and he perverted it. And that's why we got a bunch of crybabies today whining about their mommies. It doesn't offer any salvation, only offers blame. But anyway, and that is a part of an orchestrated takedown of the church. So I'm aware of all this stuff. It's so funny because, Candace Owens and Bill Zarian and all these people, like, they're late to the game in terms of knowing the history and what would happen on the bad side of things compared to me. I was early to the game, and I was saying some of the things that people didn't like. And, maybe I pulled back a little bit because my job is not to create strife. That's not what God put me here for. God put me here for love, not in a hippie fucking kind of way where you're, kissing your enemy's feet like these fucking stupid white people that were kneeling and doing this shit for George Floyd. No, those are assholes. I'm talking about love, which is the truth of the union between you and me and all of us, and that we all are waves of the same ocean, flowers of the same garden. We're all images of the same God. There are distortions, I think, my opinion is there are distortions on what that God and who that God and how that God is. I pull back a little bit, I'm a little objective, and we all fucking crazy. We're all crazy. I love being Catholic, but Catholic shit is crazy. Muslims are crazy. Jews are crazy. Hindus not so crazy. I wonder. I don't know I don't know as many Hindus or Buddhists and things like that. I'm sure they got some crazy shit too. They got these gods with like multiple arms and tongues hanging out. And you're like, okay, you sure that ain't a demon? They're all crazy. We're all fucking crazy. But we're all crazy together. So my man wants to know what my thoughts are. My thoughts have not only not changed in terms of my visit to the state of Israel, but I doubled down on my reason for going, and I doubled down on the fact that most of y'all are accepting the rage bait. It doesn't mean that there aren't bad things happening, but you're being manipulated by the very media that you're railing against, right? Donald Trump used to call it fake news. But why does he get to decide which is the fake news and which is the real news? How about it's all fake news, meaning it's all designed to manipulate. It's all designed to separate. And they got you right where they want you. Give Caesar what's his, give me what's mine. Caesar doesn't just want your money anymore. Caesar wants your attention. Caesar wants your emotion. Caesar wants your anger. Caesar wants you to be confused and disordered. And when y'all are fucking angry, and when you're making decisions or saying things, I know that most of the comments on that video, which I took down because I was like, this is stupid. Not that I was ashamed of anything I was saying, but y'all were actually irritating me. Yeah, I was getting pissed off. And I'm at a stage in my life right now where I have no interest in anger. I've lived most of my life angry. Just look at my face right now and you see the anger living on the surface. I'm an angry man. So I don't get triggered. I don't place myself where the enemy can actually trigger me. Oh, Elliott, you have no compassion. Oh, Elliott, you need to be pro-Israel. No, or pro-Palestine, pro-Israel. You get so many stupid people that are pro both sides, not realizing that you all are being manipulated. And this does not erase the truth of the history of how we got here. I know bad shit happened. I know that I've been a victim, if you want to say, because a lot of you guys, the way you sound is just like a fucking victim. Cry baby. What are you actually going to do? If Jews are ruling over you It's because they did some shit. They didn't cry. Yeah, I'm trying to trigger you. I am triggering you. But I'm asking you to take responsibility for your own emotional state and to slow down a little bit and recognize that if it's, here's how I know that all this, like, now everybody's waking up, you know, all these people, all of a sudden, like on TikTok and on Instagram, I don't go on TikTok, but on Instagram and whatnot, like, you can say negative things about Jews and you couldn't do it before. During the pandemic, you weren't even allowed to say the words. Can I even still say it? Right? Why? And growing up, check this out. I explained to you how I grew up. Growing up, you can't say anything negative about Jews. You're an anti-Semite. And I believed that because that was the way that's what the propaganda did to me. Now, does that make me now angry at Jews? No. I'm angry at the people that allow that propaganda to happen and to come in. Why didn't my country protect me? Why didn't my country protect our institutions and Hollywood and all these things from communists? And you know, you could say Jew. You could say Jew, but I don't even think a lot of these people are actually practicing Jews. I know practicing Jews. And a lot of these people, these Zionists, they're not. They're atheistic Jews. And you know what? Virtue signaling. Victim baiting. There's a lot of reason why a lot of these people even adopt that title. I guarantee most of them, think about, like, I don't know, off the top of my head, I'm thinking about Harvey Weinstein, right? I can't get a more Jewish name than that. I'm pretty sure that guy wasn't practicing Shabbat or doing like Jewish stuff. Hate is not good either way, but who are we talking about? Who are we talking? Are we talking about Bibi Netanyahu? Political puppets? Right? World puppeteers? Harvey Weinstein? Is that who we're talking about? Or are we talking about guys that are just like you and me? When I went to Israel, I see people, Jewish people, citizens, I felt like I was in an American city. These people are just like me. The areas that were dominated by Jews, it was like nice. I'm not making any judgment, but when you go to the areas that weren't dominated by Jews, they were ugly. They were bad. There was a lot of crime, right? And there was a lot of trash. Whose fault is that? I don't know. Whose fault is it in America that white neighborhoods have less crime than black neighborhoods? Whose fault is that? Who's the victim? I don't know. These are questions I'm asking you guys. The worst thing that could happen to the oligarchy, the world rulers, those who manipulate and propagandate and pull the strings of the people, is if we actually come together. That's the last thing they want. They want us separated and divided. And that's why all of a sudden you seeing all this stuff that's available online talking negatively about Jews. Why did it just happen? Why wasn't it okay 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago to say all these things, but now it is? It makes you wonder, are we being played? I think most people, whenever I get new information or I understand the history of something or I'm enlightened to something that most people don't know, I feel proud. That's just part of my shadow. I know this thing that y'all don't. And with that pride comes sort of like an anger or a disdain for those who don't. And I think a lot of you guys projected that on me when you saw my video. Elliott doesn't know how bad Jews are. And so you become proud. This nigga's wrong. And then you become angry. Now I'm going to unsubscribe. Now I'm going to leave an angry comment. You're being played. You're being played. And I know you're being played because you probably didn't even watch the video. Because if you watch the video, you know why I was there. They're playing you. This fight that was going on between Israel and Palestine, they've been going on forever. Like I said, I grew up in the 1980s, 1990s, you know, peace in the Middle East and all that shit was going on. But there wasn't the type of anger because there wasn't the internet, and the internet doesn't just free you. We have this concept, this idea that the internet is free. It's free and it frees you because you have all this information. But I am of the position right now in this season that the internet is a tool for confusion. It's the greatest propaganda machine. And what makes it even greater than the TV is that you can go down your own rabbit hole of confusion and walk out feeling proud that you now know what somebody else in their rabbit hole don't know. But it's all of you. You're being fooled. You're being fooled. You're doing exactly, you know, I'm talking just to this nebulous you, because I'm not yelling at any of you. I'm not angry at any of you. I don't even fucking know you. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. What Jesus Christ said about the world. What Jesus Christ said about the world. And if you're a Christian, you can't, as a Christian, it's not about, you're getting in a fight that doesn't actually belong to you in a lot of ways. That's why that whole lie about, you know, Israel is the same Israel that's in the Bible. It's not. I'm not knocking anybody. You can adopt a religion, but European Jews are not the same as the Jews that are in the Bible. Those are Palestinian Jews, from my research, from what I understand. Anyway, Jesus Christ, because he's the way out of all of this, even though he's been politicalized too. But if you read the words of Christ, it gives you the answer right there. You can't have two gods. You can't worship God the Father, the true pattern, the image of God within you, the kingdom within you, Jesus Christ living in your body and blood. You can't worship, you can't follow, you can't be with the true God and mammon at the same time. Jesus Christ says you can't have two gods because you're going to resent one, you're going to hate the other. You can't be divided. You can't have a divided mind. And when you become angry at the things you see outside, the news said, the TV said, you don't even know if that shit is even really happening because they've been fooling us with holograms for years. Shit you all see on TV that you think is actually happening, a lot of it is fake anyway. I'm not saying this is fake. But what do you actually know? You're watching a puppet show. And you ever go to a movie with somebody? My mom used to be like this when I was a kid. I hated watching movies with my mom because my mom would get emotionally invested with the character. She would be angry when the character's angry. And my mom's very emotional. Both of my parents are emotional. That's why the way I am. My mom would laugh so hard. Sometimes she's like slapping my knee, it like hurt. My mom like got invested in movies. I didn't want to sit next to her. I went to the movie theater, did that once. I was like, damn, Mom. She gets into the movie. You guys are doing this. It's the same thing. There's chairs moving around on the Titanic and you getting mad like, no, the chairs belong over here. No, the chairs belong over here. Oh, stop moving the chairs. Oh, that chair's broken. Oh, this guy, he don't know what to do with the chairs. He's stealing the chairs. Those chairs don't belong to him. The fucking ship is going down. What are you arguing about? It's all dust. This is all falling apart. This whole world, that's why Jesus says don't store up your treasure in barns, like your grains in barns. Why? You store up your grains in the barns. You know what's going to happen? Rats are going to eat it. People are going to steal it. And it's going to rot. You guys, when you get emotionally invested, and I'm not saying don't care. I'm not saying don't love. I'm not saying be apathetic. I'm saying when you become so angry that you're unhinged and you can't think clearly because of moving images on the screen, because that's all you fucking know. All you know is moving images on the screen. Have you gone to Israel? I have. Have you spoken with Palestinians in Israel? I have. I met them. Hung out with them. Have you broken bread and spent some time and had great conversations with some Jews in Israel? I don't know about you, but I have. Jews are some of the funnest people to talk to because they don't take anything face value. They're like, no, it can be looked at from this angle and from that angle. They're like fun. I actually like have the greatest conversations when I'm talking with my Jewish clients or my Jewish friends. They like to argue, right? Because they're not satisfied with just resting on what you think. Wait a second, let's look at it a different way. What are you worried about? What are you complaining about? What are you all panties in a bunch about? Pictures on the screen. Pictures on the screen. This is the greatest hypnotic tool ever created. And the more emotional, because intellect and knowledge and information will confuse the fuck out of you also too. But once it sinks into your heart and now your character, your emotions, your way of being and thinking is now being manipulated by what you see on the screen, you're a fucking fool. We're in this world, we're not of it. Whatever's happening in Israel and Palestine, guess what? It's grains in a barn. It's going to be eaten up, it's going to turn to dust. All this shit is going to turn to, America's going to turn to dust, Israel's going to turn to dust, Palestine's going to turn to dust, China's going to turn to dust, Russia's going to turn to dust. Just look at a map, read a map from just like 500 years ago. All different countries. Countries that didn't exist now. And countries that don't exist now existed then. Chairs moving around in the Titanic. You're getting emotionally invested. And you're losing your soul as a result. Jesus Christ comes to bring peace. Peace in your heart. He says, my yoke is light. My burden's heavy. My burden's not heavy. He also says, I came to bring a sword. The sword of discernment, which most of y'all don't fucking use. A sword always represents what? Chopping, cutting, decisiveness, the Budra sword, cutting things up. This whole world is cut up into material pieces. The sword allows us to discern. Lets us look at something and dissect it. You could read it any way you want. I'm not a Bible expert. I'm just telling you what I think. I'm not going to start a church like some Protestants told me I should. You should start a church, Elliott. No, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm good when there's one church. I'll just give my opinion and just hopefully not lead anybody to sin. But you're being distracted. You're being distracted by the world, being distracted by the Maya, being distracted by the material existence, and the only truth, the one truth that actually matters is love. The one truth, the only thing that actually truly matters is love, and not impeding love, not getting in the way of love. And I'm not talking about mommy love. I'm not talking about emotional love. I'm talking about gravity. I'm talking about the physics of love, which is attraction and unity. Hate, they say God gathers, Satan scatters. Who is your Lord? The Lord of separation, right? Or the Lord of cohesion, oneness. There's one God. I don't care what name you give him. My name is God. My name is God. I am. I'm not God. But I'm no less God than a wave isn't made out of water. Where does the wave say, I am not water? I'm made in the likeness of image of an all-loving creator. And so I'm going to do my best to provide, protect, and I'll blast somebody if they needed to be. I have no problem. I have no problem. It's my tendency to be angry and violent. That comes naturally to me. So I can flip that switch in a moment. I ain't no hippie lover. But I've dropped the weight of hate and perpetual anger, especially when it's being propagated through the screen. So you do what you want to do, dudes. I'm going to wrap up with that. Talk soon. Done.